So if you have been looking for more support and would love to work with me further, maybe come into my world, I am very excited to say that I'm launching my most accessible offer yet. It's launching in September and it's my new membership. And I really would love as many of you in there. I've tried to make it as accessible as possible and I'm going to keep it as low cost as I can. And this is going to be a monthly membership where you can dip in and dip out of my different resources. There's going to be a live workshop every month. We're going to have a community area. We're going to have an opportunity for me to just drop in some audio just to keep you going through that week. And I promise you, I'm going to make this the most supportive way possible to work with me right now. And for me, this is all about connecting a community that feels like-minded, compassionate, who want to develop themselves. They want to help each other. And I promise you, I'm working behind the scenes. I'm going to get the book out and then this is launching in September. So if you're interested in this, go to my website, adhdwomenswellbeing.co.uk. All the information is there. All you have to do is put your name on the wait list. And if you put your name on the wait list before September, you will get the founding members price, which is £15 a month. It will be going up in September. So if you're on the pre-wait list, I promise you, you'll get this price. So head to my website. All the details are there. Hi everyone, welcome back to another wisdom episode, and I'm really happy to share with you a clip from one of my favourite guests. It was Manuela Mitevova. Now, Manuela is a movement teacher who specialises in releasing stuck emotions through our body. She also specialises in the nervous system and helping people with chronic pain, autoimmune problems, anxiety and insomnia. And this conversation, I've really sort of pulled out a big part of the conversation that really resonated with me, and it's around why trauma energy is often stored in our large muscle groups. And I know lots of us deal with hypermobility and chronic pain and stiffness, and so I really wanted to bring this reminder back to you. We also talk about the significance of gentle somatic movement in emotional physical healing, just the power of gentle exercise and movement can help release quite significant stuck energy. And using these specific movements and practices can help us release this tension and these stored emotions, which often manifest in things like migraine and gut problems and anxiety and sleeplessness. So I'm really happy to bring back this clip with Manuela. Here it is. Until we're diagnosed, until we understand, we will have had a history of chronic pain, chronic fatigue, autoimmune issues, gut issues, anxiety, sleeplessness. I mean, the list just goes on, and the dots have never been connected. And I'm not saying that if you go and do half an hour of like gentle somatic movement, everything is cured. But it's a really lovely, gentle exploration to seeing if that potentially could help you begin this new journey of letting things go and being really sort of compassionate and gentle in yourself. And I want to ask you, do you notice an area in the body that holds the most trauma? And I wonder, is it the hips? Because I hear this so much. And why, if it is the hips, why is it the hips?
So for this question, I always answer that every person is completely unique and different. And at the same time, we are built in a very similar way. So we all have certain muscles that are much bigger muscles. So for example, your hip muscles, your glutes and your hip flexors and so on, they're much bigger than, for example, the muscles on your wrists, right? So just because of the surface area, just because of energetically where they are positioned around your, below your organs, your pelvic floor and so on, there's a lot going on there. So there is a much bigger energetic charge to your core, to your back, to your pelvis, rather than to your limbs, for example. Of course, it's easier to think about it that our core, which is basically our torso, is the part where the most amount of energy is being stored. That's where our organs are. And if you go into traditional Chinese medicine, you will see that the organs are what holds the energy. We have the meridians, which go through the whole body, that are basically moving this energy, dispersing it, but the meridians are the energy holders. So the torso is very important. And I always like to focus on the torso, on, as I said, the back, the core, and the pelvis. So these are the three big areas for me that can potentially hold so much tension. And if we go back to polyvagal theory, the reason for that is that these are the biggest muscles, the big muscles that we need to fight or flight. Of course, if you want to start running, you need to brace your core. You need to start, you need to create that movement in your body. And how you do that is by engaging the biggest muscles, of course. If you want to run or fight, this is how you do it. So it's not so necessary to kind of engage your fingers or your wrists or your forearms, right? So it's the bigger muscles in the body that are directly connected to our survival response. And therefore, if we experience trauma or events that potentially can be traumatic to us that we were not able to process at the time, that energy, of course, as you know, does not dissipate out of these muscles. And then it's as if you're stuck trying to run, but there's a wall in front of you. I really like to use this example because it really exemplifies very well what that feels like in the body. So if you're trying to run as fast as you can, but then just as you're about to begin, there's a wall in front of you and you can't, and your body still holds all of this energy, but it needs to go somewhere. However, when we experience these events, we are not necessarily given a way to process that. So we are not allowed or trained or shown how to, for example, do the natural shake or to scream or to stomp our feet and to shake off the body, right? We are not allowed to do this. And therefore, that energy just has no way of dissipating. And it stays in the muscles and mostly around the muscles of the core, the back, the hips, the hip flexors, and so on. So this is why it's so important to talk about the big muscle groups and how they're connected to our survival response, because this is then how we begin to understand how stretching them, moving them, activating them can help release all of that tension that has been stuck there because of that traumatic or potentially traumatic experience.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And I was just, when you were saying that, I was thinking about like when, a child has a tantrum, like a 2-year-old, and they will not hesitate to throw themselves on the floor and stamp and bang their fists and shake and cry. And then you kind of think, oh my goodness, like in 20 minutes, they're like a different child. Yeah. They are laughing and they're joking and they're hugging you. And you kind of go from day to night so quickly with kids who are not afraid to release those emotions in the moment. And that's why we as parents say, it's okay, let them experience it, let them do it. Don't shush them. Don't tell them to be quiet. Don't be embarrassed if it's happening in the supermarket, because let them just move through that process. But as we, especially as women, are told to contain ourselves, to not go crazy, to, all these words, to not be hysterical. And we are frozen in the moment, like you say, and then we don't have any place or space or safety to then process them, with somebody that can handle it. And very often in a traditional male-female relationship, the male can feel maybe quite threatened or scared or not know what to do with us if we want to process. So I agree with you. I wish that we are taught from a really young age, from the age of like whatever age it is that we're told as girls, especially, to keep a lid on it, to keep quiet, that actually some hip stretches or shaking, whatever, is like a really healthy way to process emotions. I wonder what you could say to somebody that's listening right now and they want to start with very gentle movement, somatic movement, whether they're experiencing, the jaw release or the neck pain. For me, especially, I have had years and years of lower back pain, tight hips. It's something I have to work on pretty much every day to kind of loosen it all up. And I know that's a lot of stored emotion, a lot of childhood stuff that I've kind of like stored. What would you say are kind of like, where would someone begin? And what resources do you have if someone's saying, yeah, I would love to just start very gently?
Yeah. So starting very gently, as I mentioned at the very beginning, it's extremely important because I wouldn't want people to think that movement means that they're going to do a sweaty session or they're going to do a super bendy session where it just becomes inaccessible to even begin, and then it becomes unsustainable to keep doing it for more than once. So setting the bar kind of low for yourself in terms of what you're willing to do, I think is very important. And especially with people who live with trauma or chronic stress, in burnout, or live with anxiety or chronic fear, it's really important to start being very accepting of yourself or where you are, and not comparing yourself to others and saying that you now need to do a 1 hour movement session. That's not realistic. That's just not happening. It's enough to do 2 minutes. That's all that you need to do. Maybe it's even a 1 minute. Maybe it's even 30 seconds. It's just that moment that you dedicate to yourself and to spending some time with your body. It's not the length, is the quality. So even if you just sit in your chair, in your work, in your office, and you just do those neck rolls, or you just do some gentle pelvic tilts, it's the practice. That's it. There doesn't need to be anything else. And I have some wonderful resources for free on my YouTube channel about somatic movement, expressing emotions, moving emotions. And they are very gentle. They're extremely accessible to any beginner who has never moved in their life, who cannot sit on the floor, do a downward dog from yoga. It's just moving energy. It's energy work. This is what we need to do at the very beginning. And it's not difficult to get into. So I invite people to just start with very small movements. One of my favorite ones, and I have this a lot in so many of my classes on YouTube, is just the pelvic tilts. So it's just laying on your back and just tilting your pelvis up and down. So you're kind of arching your back and then flattening your back. I find that a lot of people are almost unable to do the movement if I tell them tilt your pelvis up and down. Like, they cannot move the pelvis. It's so stuck, and there's so much stuck energy there that is so difficult for them to do that. So I usually lead with actually flattening the back and rounding it, because that seems to be a little bit more easy, and it kind of moves into the same shape that we want to get the body into. And it's such a deeply restorative and awakening movement for the body. And that's all that there is to it. You can just spend a few seconds to a minute or a few minutes just tucking and untucking your pelvis. It's just like doing a small wave with your lower back. And that unlocks so much stuckness around your hips and lower back as well. So many people are struggling with lower back issues, and they don't realize it's actually tight hips. We have so many students like this. It's just crazy. So there's always a gentle way to start than you think there is. I think that would be my biggest advice to anyone who's listening and who's just finding the prospect of, oh, now I have to start moving, daunting. If that is daunting to you, then please know that there's a very simple way to do that, very accessible way to do that. You don't even have to have a yoga mat. You don't have to have space. You can do it in your bed. You can do it on your couch. It is all accessible, and it is there. And it's a portal to something that is potentially so extremely healing to you. And as you mentioned at the beginning, it's not that one session is going to heal all of your problems all of a sudden. Of course not. But it's a portal. It's about choosing the right way to move your body, rather than just having this umbrella term of, now I need to be moving in order to heal my trauma and my stuck emotions and my pain. So yeah, it's always starting like this, just very, very simple, and accepting towards your body that no one's asking you of anything. You don't owe anyone anything. You don't have to show up for a 1 hour practice. It's all your choices.
So I hope you enjoyed listening to this shorter episode of the ADHD Women's Wellbeing podcast. I've called it the ADHD Women's Wellbeing Wisdom because I believe there's so much wisdom in the guests that I have on and their insights. So sometimes we just need that little bit of a reminder, and I hope that has helped you today, and look forward to seeing you back on the brand new episode on Thursday. Have a good rest of your week.